Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn, and today I want to do a Crafty 101 episode on my top picks for basic paper crafting. And I'm gonna go through some of my favorites and as well let you know what else I've tried, just so that you know where I'm coming from and what I'm comparing these to. So my favorite paper, if we're talking about paper crafting, is I have a couple of different favorites. For white cardstock, I do like accent opaque 120-pound cover weight for my card bases, particularly for card bases that need to kind of hold up to whatever else is getting put on top of it. So kinetic cards, cards with movement, generally I like to use this because it kind of needs to hold up to that sort of interaction. A lot of time pop-up cards, because they need to kind of stand up and be sturdy. So really just depends, but this is my favorite. It's very affordable. Accent Opaque does also have a line of super smooth cardstock, and I've just been waiting for it to come in 100-pound. I've tried it in 65-pound and I like it, but I want to try it out in 100-pound cover weight to see if, because it is offered at a very nice price point, and I want to see if that is a good alternative to my second favorite white cardstock, which is the Hammermill premium color copy paper. It's 100-pound cover weight or 271 GSM, and also very affordable. It's great because it's super bright, super smooth, which makes it really fabulous as an all-purpose cardstock to have in my stash, because it's good for alcohol marker coloring, and as well, it was my top cardstock for glimmer hot foiling until I started using the actual glimmer specialty paper. But if you don't want to get the specialty paper, because maybe, maybe you're not into hot foiling just yet, this is really good because it will work for that just fine. And if you like to do alcohol marker coloring, it's really, really wonderful for that. And it's 100 pounds, so it's still pretty heavy weight. And I sometimes use this for card bases too, especially when I know I'm going to add a lot of mats and layers to the card. So this is very, very a good paperweight for card bases, and especially if it's not a interactive card or a pop-up card, I find this is actually really good for every day. So it's a really nice multi-purpose cardstock to have on hand. I've tried coloring onto Nina Solar White, and that is nice, but I like this better. And not just for price point either. There is a very striking different price point between the two. This is a lot more affordable, but I also just like it better in terms of the results. So everybody's coloring style is going to be a little bit different, and so you might find you get better results with other cardstocks. I've tried Bristol Smooth. I've tried Ohuhu has their own marker paper. I've tried the Arteza marker paper. I've tried the Spectrum Noir marker paper. For value for money, for the results, for how multi-purpose it can be, this is still my favorite. And so that's the Hammermill premium color copy paper. Those are the two main white cardstocks I like. For black color cardstock, this is my favorite. It's very, very pitch black. I love it. I haven't tried every black cardstock out there. I know there are lots, but this is my favorite, especially since you can get a pretty like a mini ream of it, not your full 250 sheets, but you can get 100 sheets. It's very affordable. 65-pound cover weight, 176 GSM, which makes it a really nice layering weight. I wouldn't necessarily use this as a card base. I feel like 65-pound might be a little bit too lightweight for card bases, but great for layering. So that's my favorite black cardstock. Then my favorite color cardstock would be the Spellbinders cardstocks, and for a couple of reasons. This has actually become a new favorite of mine. I have to say, before this, my favorite was the Michael's Recollection, because it's affordable, but it's better as it's still a top for me, but it's just better for layering weight because the Recollections cardstock, which is from Michaels, I think it's their brand, it's 65-pound cover. So it's a little bit lighter weight, but I do like it for mats and layers. It comes in a nice variety of colors, and it also has a solid core, which is my preferred type of color cardstock. Because if you look at it from the sides there, everything here is color through and through. But when you get down to the end here, I think these are Crafter's Companions color cardstocks. These are actually white core, which is great for different techniques. I just prefer solid core and I prefer smooth, and that's why I like these Spellbinders papers. They've become a new favorite of mine. I do want to say I am a Spellbinders influencer, but that's not necessarily why I've picked these as my favorite. I actually like these because they are 100-pound cover weight. So you can actually use them for card bases if you want to make a colored card base as opposed to just using white. So I like that I have that option with these. I do like that they come in these really nice, convenient kind of light, mid, dark, so that you can really easily, if you like to do die cut, layered die cuts, you have a lot of die sets that that are designed so that you can do like a shadow and a highlight layer of your die cuts. It's great that they kind of conveniently have it in these nice colorways of, sets of 3 that make it really easy to pick. And this is a free printable that you can get on their website, on the Spellbinders website, and it actually tells you for each color cardstock that they have, that's the name of their cardstock, it actually tells you the Ranger Distress color. And if you want to try to match your inks to your papers, they've paired it with the Ranger Distress line of inks, both oxides and just the dye inks. So that's become a new favorite of mine. Tonic's Craft Perfect I also like, and the Sizzix papers are really nice. Tonic and Sizzix I think are pretty similar both in paperweight. I would put it at around 80 to 90 pound cover, but the reason why the Spellbinders one I like better is, one, it's heavier weight, so it can be used as a card base. 2, it's smooth on both sides, perfectly smooth on both sides, where the the Tonic and the Sizzix cardstocks are textured. They have kind of a woven texture on one side, and it is smooth on the other side, but it's smooth relative to the flip side. There's still like a little bit of a texture. There's always going to be a little bit of a texture. So if you are stamping, let's say you wanted to stamp and heat emboss a sentiment, for example, onto color cardstock, smoother cardstock is going to be easier for you to get a nice crisp impression than a cardstock that has a texture to it. So that's kind of why for colored cardstock, Spellbinders is my favorite. For specialty cardstocks, Tonic and the Craft Perfect papers has the broadest range, gorgeous colors. So for specialty papers, I would go Tonic. For your solid color cardstock, I like Spellbinders. So that covers the different papers. There's lots of other specialty papers I won't go into, but I think that covers the basics in papers and my favorites along those lines. Then for paper cutters, my absolute favorite, if I had to only pick one, I did do like a whole video on paper trimmers and the various types that I have when I got the Tim Holtz rotary trimmer. And so if you want a deep dive on just paper trimmers, you can check out that video. This is my favorite if I only had to pick one because it's the Fiskars Guillotine, and the reason why I like it is because you get clean cuts all the time, every time, and it is very precise. You have down to the 16th of an inch measurements on the measuring guide here. The blade doesn't need to be replaced. It is kind of self-sharpening, but really that just means that it holds its blade, it holds its sharpness over time. It doesn't get dull over time, so you don't have an ongoing maintenance cost or replacement cost to this style of, and that's going to be true for all guillotines. So you might find that a different brand is better for you, but I really like this. It's large. The platform's large, so you can cut 12 by 12, but it's also pretty light, and so I like it for those reasons. So that's my top pick for paper cutters, but I have my top pick for scoring tools is the We Are Memory Keepers all-in-one, and it is also a paper trimmer. So bonus feature, this would be my second favorite trimmer after the guillotine, but I do like it as a scoring board because it can go out all the way to 14 inches with the extension. I like that it's multifunctional. So this has a lot of features built into it. It is a more considered purchase, but it has the convenience of having a lot of different features built into it. The two that I use it most for are cutting and scoring, and I like that you can do both, one right after the other with the same tool. Really, really handy. The only thing is that this is a drop-in sort of a V-blade trimmer, and so you do, as with all trimmers of this nature, you do have to change this out and replace it over time because this will get dull. And as it gets dull, what happens is you might still get a really clean cut at the top, but from the underside, you might get a little bit of a rolled edge that isn't quite as clean like you would get on a guillotine. And then as it gets really dull, then you'll get some fuzzies along the edges, even on the top side. But this, as I mentioned, is a multi-purpose tool, and they call it all-in-one because there are a lot of other functions that you can do with this that I actually don't use much or at all. So there is a stamping platform, and these are magnets that let you attach your stamping platform so you can do multi-stamping, and then these do push in so that you can get your image here. And it does come with magnets. I've taken them and used them on my preferred stamping platform positioning tool, which I'll get to. But this is magnetic here, so you can see this you can use to kind of hold down your paper. There's a platform. I have it who knows where because I don't ever use it, and you can stamp right on here. So kind of nice. It's really convenient. It's all in one. If you craft in a small space, if you don't have a large budget to buy a lot of really specialty things, then this is great to just have so many different options and functionality built into the same tool. So here you've got like a corner rounder, you have a reverse notcher, this is a hole punch, this is for creating tabs. You have this guide, which you can use to score and make envelopes and tags and banners, and you can punch your corners for your envelopes and everything. So there's a lot built into this, which is really, really awesome. And on this end here, you have like a bow. You can put these little spokes in here and create bows. So many different options. And I think I have a video. Well, I don't know if I published it. I know I made a video showing all of the features and functionality of this when I first got it, and if I have it, I'll try to link to as many of other deep dive videos as I can. But I love this. I'm gonna put it at my number 1 for scoring, and my number 2 as a paper trimmer. So that is what I've used for scoring, and also as my paper cutter. Speaking of stamping, because we talked about that a moment ago, this is my go-to as a stamp positioning tool. It's great. It's from Vase and Creative. When I got this, it was only $20, but I was really surprised when Delise went to go buy, she was looking for like a small one like this, and I told her what I used, and she was like, girl, that's $60. And I was like, no way, no, it's not. I only paid 20. And sure enough, it is. It's gone up quite a lot. So for that price, you could get a Misty, I think, a mini Misty for that price. And the reason why I got this is because I didn't want to spend $60 on a Misty. And this has worked and served me very well over the years. So I love it. It's great. It's precise. I've used the Crafter's Companion one. They have that large platform with the spring action plate, and it has the base that has the recess positioning or registration areas for the feet to go into. But I find that with that, there's a little bit of play, there's a little bit of wiggle room, so it is possible to use the Crafter's Companion one and actually not get your stamped impression to hit identically every single time. So that's kind of why I prefer this. Although I would say, while this is the one that I use the most, speaking of like multifunctional tools, if you're looking for something that can serve more than one purpose, I would maybe recommend this Make Art Station, which I really like because this whole surface is metal, so it's magnetized, making it really great for doing different techniques on, for example, stenciling. You can use these really nice large magnets to hold down your stencils, but as well you can get the these. This is an add-on. It doesn't come with, so it's a little bit of an extra expense, but you can use this as a stamp positioning tool. It's really great. So this L right here basically gives you a registration point for using whatever stamping block you have that has a sharp corner. Rounded might work too, because really it just needs to go into that L so that you can always hit 100% of the time the same spot. And so you would basically put this somewhere, put your stamp wherever it needs to go, then use your block to pick it up, and then ink up your stamp, and then put that corner of your stamping block right into the corner of this L shape, and then stamp. So you can use that. You can use this, which has a grid. This comes with this set here. So there's a lot of different ways you can use this as a stamping block if you needed. You could use this as a positioning tool. So what you could do is stamp your image on here, make sure it's nice and straight, line this up where you want on your project, and then, put that where it needs to go, and then stamp with this. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use this. I like these thicker acrylic blocks just because it's easier to hold on to than something thin like this, but you can definitely use it in multiple different ways. If you need it in a pinch, you could use this to stamp with. Your acrylic, your photopolymer and acrylic stamps, clear stamps will stick to this just fine. So this is a good multi-purpose tool, the Make Art Station, and as well it has a the other thing that's nice about it is it does have this magnetic ruler. It does come with it. The magnetic ruler is it doesn't come with these bar magnets. So these are just nice, really strong magnets that I like to have. This is a centering ruler. So it's got 0 in the middle and then outwards. So if you like to really make sure that things are centered, you can use this, and it is magnetized. It's a light magnet, but it's magnetized. So there's that. So I would say this is a nice kind of multi-purpose because you can stencil ink right onto here, and it's easy to clean up. So you don't need like an inking like mat to protect your surface. You can use this. So and this is an extra cost. The stamp positioning set here, but kind of nice extension to that. So that's what I like as stamping tools. Of course, if you don't feel like you need to do like precise stamping and multiple stamping in the same spot, just like a plain acrylic block is also really nice to have. So there's that. Then in terms of the other thing before we move into inks and whatnot, I wanted to talk a little bit about bone folders because we talked about scoring, and bone folders are important to get like really nice crisp folds, especially if you're doing a lot of mini albums and 3D makes, boxes, bags, things like that. Bone folders come in a lot of different sizes, in different shapes, in different forms, and so there's a lot out there. Couple things. Actual bone folders look like this. They're usually going to be a little bit kind of yellowish, and I don't know what kind of bone they're made of, but they're called bone folders for a reason. And so these are great, and the only problem with them that has like spawned kind of a new line of things is that they can sometimes leave a mark when you score. And often I think it's more visible on darker color cardstock. You wouldn't necessarily see it on white cardstock. And it's usually not a mark like a color. It's more like a glossy kind of finish. And so that's generally what these would look like. And again, they also come in different shapes and forms, but you can even see just by color, like they are different than some of these other ones. And the reason is that these are Teflon bone folders. And so one of the reasons why these have come out and become popular is because they actually don't leave a mark on your project. And some people just don't like the idea of bone using that. So there is that. And then other things that aren't bone folders necessarily are scoring tools. So these are just plastic, and generally I just use whatever comes with my scoreboard as a scoring tool. And so you can use one of these if you wanted, but I just use whatever comes with. And so that's the one that came with my all-in-one, which I showed earlier. But what I use bone folders for is to actually burnish a fold and reinforce that, or I use it for burnishing glue and adhesives. Anytime I glue something down, I like to burnish it so that glue, it kind of maximizes its hold, whether it's a dry adhesive or a liquid adhesive. I always like to burnish. This you probably see me use all the time, every time in every video for that purpose. And I love it. It's ergonomic. It's got a nice wide edge, great for like burnishing mats and layers. It's easy on the hands. It's actually called an ergonomic bone folder because it's just easy to hold. And so you'll see everything I talk about as my top pick in all of my videos under the various different sections in my basic supplies. So this is my top pick in terms of just what I use all the time as for burnishing both score lines, burnishing for just spreading, making sure glue, two pieces of paper are well glued together, whether doesn't matter what kind of adhesive I'm using. I love it for that. But my second choice, you can get this shape, which I really like, and I don't use this as often, but this is really handy to have for a good variety of reasons, because what's nice about this type, which is more like a pencil type, is this rounded edge you could actually use for flower forming. If you don't have like a ball stylus, you could use this nice rounded edge for flower forming, and then you can use the sharper tip for scoring if you wanted. So this becomes pretty handy and is a nice kind of unique shape, sort of that pencil shape. This one I find really handy because It's got this nice long edge here, so I use that to burnish folds, but it also has this nice flat edge with this nice square corner. And it's long, so this is good for like if I am doing 3D makes and I need to kind of burnish maybe the bottom of a bag or something. I have to get this kind of deep inside of a bag or a box or something that isn't flat anymore. This is really nice because it's nice and long and it can get into those corners really well because it's got the nice 90-degree corners here. So that's why I like to use that one, and I have it handy at all times, but this would be my top pick just for everyday use. And I still have multiple, proper actual bone folders that are really great. I mean, they are nice quality and good to hold in the hand, and they work beautifully. But this one just takes the cake for me in terms of bone folders. So then I talked a little bit about adhesives, and my absolute favorite, if I only had to pick one, would be the Lineco. The brand is here, Lineco, pH neutral. It's a PVA glue, so it's very low water content, which is good for a lot of different reasons. One, it's quick grabbing. So while you do have a little bit of wiggle room if you need to kind of nudge things around a little, get them into the exact right position you want them in, you've got that little bit of wiggle room, but it doesn't take as long to grab and hold as maybe a craft, school glue would. And that's because it has a low water content. And that means that it's going to start to like really kind of dry and take hold and not budge. It may not be completely cured and dried, but the fact that it's quick grabbing means that you don't have to worry about it continuing to shift and move on you and having to wait a long time before you can like kind of move on to your next step. So I love it for that reason. I also love that this is actually created for bookbinders. It says right here, ideal for bookbinding and paper projects. And so it's actually a very affordable glue. A lot of folks who make handmade journals, handmade notebooks, use this and use it in kind of high quantities. So this is really, really affordable. You can buy large bottle of it like this, and then what I do is I just buy these smaller fine tip squeeze bottles and I decant into these and use this. So it's great for the price point, great for the fact that it's made for bookbinders, so it's archival safe, acid free, and all of that good stuff. So this is not only good for card making, but I use this for all of my mini albums too. So if you scrapbook, if you do mini albums, anywhere where you might be using photos that you don't want to risk yellowing over time, using acid-free and archival safe products is what will help to keep those photos, in their original colors as much as possible. So that's why I love this. Other liquid PVA glues that I've used or craft glues that I've used are Barely Art, which I really like. It's just a very high price point. Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive also I like, but I don't like the bottle. It's harder to squeeze, and the nozzle tip tends to get clogged very easily. The Craft Tacky Glue from Tonic is also really nice. I like this quite a bit, and the nozzle seems to be holding up just fine. And so this again is a very quick grabbing PVA glue, so that's really nice. I have not tried Art Glitter Glue. I know that's a favorite, and to be honest, I'm really happy with this, so I don't really find myself super compelled to try it. but I know that's another popular one. Cosmic Shimmer does a really nice glue that I know a lot of folks are big fans of, but I just really love my Line Co pH Neutral. You can't beat it for a price point, for the quality of the glue, for the fact that it is acid free and all of that good stuff. So I love it for that. Then in terms of dry adhesives though, I do love I get a lot of different dry adhesives, and for album making and just like the strongest double-sided dry adhesive I have, score tape is my favorite. So just by far, like I kind of reserve it just for my mini albums because it is a little bit more expensive, but I do like having it in both these like thinner 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch are the two popular ones that I use, but I do also like the 5-inch wide. It's more economical to get wider strips like these because it's less, cutting down that they would have to do and less packaging, but it is more spendy just overall. It's cheaper if you work it out to price per square inch, for example, but this is good for covers. Like I like to have my covers have, of my albums have full, edge to edge adhesive coverage, and so it's more economical sometimes to buy larger rolls like that or larger sheets. So I do like that as my dry adhesive of choice, although for everyday card making, my ATG gun, you'll probably see me use a lot of, and I don't use the Scotch refills. I just use whatever is most economical on Amazon. So I think the brand that I've used a lot of is TRU, True. And those refills are pretty economical, especially for like how quickly I go through these rolls. I do like to try to find like really economical choices. So that would be my favorite there. I do have a favorite adhesive sheet. These are my low profile foam. About I can't find this specific one anymore because this is actually just at 1 millimeter. I've bought other ones that have been advertised as 1 millimeter, but when I measure them out, they're closer to 1.5. But I love this. If I could get this again, I would definitely, and I kind of regret not buying like loads of it just to just to stockpile it, because I like the low profile for just adding a bit of dimension, especially when then I could like do multiple layers of dimension and stack up multiples of these without having to worry about triggering extra postage for being too thick of a card. So that's why I love it, and I love that this is adhesive backed on both sides. So I really hope the same brand makes adhesive sheets that they kind of call 1 millimeter, and I think that's what I currently have linked to in all of my videos, but it's not this exact one. I've bought it and it's not this exact one, so I'm a little bit bummed by that. But I have a new favorite for foam, and that is Pear Blossom Press's World's Best Foam. And caveat, I will let full disclosure, I am on the Pear Blossom Press design team, but I do really love this foam, and I wouldn't put it as my top pick if it wasn't, and that's true for everything in this video. I love different brands and I love trying different brand items, so I don't have like strict loyalties where I'll only buy from companies that I design for. But the properties that are unique about the Pear Blossom Press foam is, okay, there's a couple of things. So one, it's thick, so you don't have to double up on your foam. It even says double thick. So if you're making shaker cards, and in particular if you're making light up cards, this is really wonderful for that. Two, okay, this foam, always naturally wants to not stick to its liner on this side. So it always starts to do this, which exposes the adhesive. And, when dry adhesive gets exposed to air like that, it starts to lose its tackiness. And I guess I was in a rush when I put this away, and I didn't do what I normally do, which is to have to tape it down so that it kind of doesn't keep unraveling. Look at this. It's sticking just perfectly fine. I know that's such a small detail, but it's a big detail if you end up having to waste foam because this has been exposed to air and has lost its stickiness. So I love that. I love the fact that it's really easy to peel off the liner. Super easy to do that. This I always have to go at with a pokey tool in order to get that off. It is also really amazing for this property. It is repositionable for 30 minutes and then permanent after 24 hours. So I accidentally, applied this wrong on a card, truly by accident. And it is really very easy to pull back up. You don't have to worry about tearing your card at all. And you've got plenty of working time. 30 minutes is a lot of working time, even if you're a slow crafter like I am. And so I love that. And I love the fact that it is going to be a nice, strong, permanent hold after 24 hours. Sometimes with foam adhesives that are maybe an off-brand or whatnot, what you might often see me do, and even with this one, I won't say the brand of it, but this isn't like an off-brand. But even with this, what you might see me sometimes do is put a bead of liquid adhesive when I use this, even though this is a pretty strong adhesive as well. But the reason is, especially when I know that the edge has been exposed to air and has probably lost a little bit of its tackiness, just running a bead of liquid adhesive will make it permanent, and you're not relying on the dry adhesive on here. So, when you see me doing that, that's why. It's because I want something to be nice and permanent. And I have, some concerns about about it holding up over time. I don't have that concern with this foam because I know, look, you can see it's not even lifted a smidge. So that's not being exposed to air in the same way that other roll is. So and it's not because this is like, kind of held onto this backer card. It's truly well stuck there, which is just amazing considering the paper liner is really easy to remove, and yet it's just magical. I mean, because it's repositionable, but it holds really well. So I don't know what all went into the engineering for that, but I love it as a foam adhesive. It's got a lot of special properties that I just find really fabulous. So I do love that. And I think that covers the adhesives, both liquid adhesives that I like, as well as double-sided adhesives that I like, and then some of my favorite foam adhesives. So then getting into stamping, we talked a little bit about stamp positioning tools, so let me talk about inks and my favorite inks. So I do have a Crafty 101 episode just on inks, and I will have a Crafty 101 episode just on papers too. So if you want to deep dive into any of these, check out my Crafty 101 playlist, and I'll be putting all of my Crafty 101 episodes there. My favorite black ink of all time is the VersaFine Onyx Black, and it's great for sentiments. It's super fine detail, long lasting. It's a pigment ink. It is different from VersaFine Clear. VersaFine Clear is formulated based on the original VersaFine, but they've altered it a little bit in order to broaden the color range that you can get, and it too is really great. Really nice dark black, but really doesn't, nothing beats VersaFine Onyx Black. The problem, not the problem, but the reason why I have other multiple different inks is because you can't always use a pigment ink for everything that you want to do. And namely, um, it is good for like water-based medium that you might want to color with, but it's not so good for solvent-based medium like your alcohol markers. The pigment ink could move. So my next favorite, and this has changed over the years. It used to be Nuvo Hybrid ink was my favorite hybrid ink, but now Gina K's Amalgam ink, which is a hybrid ink, is my new favorite. So what I like to do when I'm stamping out images that I know I'll be coloring is I stamp it in a hybrid ink, and that way I can stamp out a bunch of images, and then when I go to sit down to actually color, I can choose what medium I want to color with, and I don't have to think about that in advance. Because the good thing with a hybrid ink is that it is going to be, it's going to hold up with water-based medium, and as well, it will hold up and not budge with your alcohol-based mediums. Now, you might get a little bit of, bleeding of your lines if you try to, like, color right away. You might want to give it a little bit of time to really dry. But because hybrid inks are a mix between dye inks, which generally dry very quickly, and pigment inks, which take longer to dry, you kind of have to wait some time in between. And as well, because it is a hybrid, there is still going to be some bit of ink formulation that might move. It's just that you probably wouldn't notice it too much, and it sort of depends, especially with alcohol markers. Some alcohol markers have more alcohol solution, base solution in them, and that might move, your stamped lines more than maybe a darker color of alcohol marker, and which doesn't have as much of that alcohol solution that tends to kind of bleach out your lines or your colors a little bit. So kind of just depends on what kind of coloring, if you do coloring, what inks you would want to have as your favorite black ink. But those are my favorites. Then in terms of color, I do really love Versacolor, and this is also a Sukaneko ink, like the VersaFine inks. And I have to just say, just in general, Sukaneko inks are my favorite because you can get such a broad range of different formulations, dye-based, pigment-based, water-based, solvent-based, good for non-porous surfaces, good for fabric, good for porous, surfaces like paper. Their ink line, because that's what they do, is very broad, and it's got gorgeous colors, and the ink pads are always very high quality. And the ink pads are different in formulation and type. Like some are the spongy ink pads, some are your linen felted ink pads. So it just depends on the type of ink and what's the best carrier for it, and what's the best ink pad to actually transfer that ink. I did like a very extensive exploration of all of my inks with the Better Press, and by far the Sukaneko inks, just in general, and there's so many different ones, like your Delicata inks, your Memento inks, your Luxe inks. There's so many different ones. Versa Magic, they all work really well in the Better Press. So just in terms of like the range of finishes, types, and materials that you can ink on, Sukaneko has a line out there that works. And so that's sort of, as a brand, my favorite. And I, again, full disclosure, I am part of the Imagine Crafts, which is a retailer of Sukaneko inks. But that's not really what's impacting my pick. I'll show you in a moment. And if you saw my exploration of the Better Press with all the different inks that I've tried, or you've watched my Crafty 101 on inks, you'll have probably seen all of these because I have a lot of different inks. I try a lot of them out, not I haven't tried everything on the market, but I have tried a lot of these, and then the distress oxides as well. Those are just larger. I like getting the mini ink cubes because they're just easier to store and they work just fine for most of the stamping that I need to do. And so I like having them in this convenient small size. Nuvo's really good, has some really nice hybrid inks, which is really nice. They blend pretty well, so I do love that. They stamp pretty well, so I think just the hybrid nature of them being, a cross between pigment and dye inks means they're pretty all-purpose and work fairly well. I think I would say the Hero Arts line of inks might be my next favorite after, just as a brand, after Sukaneko, because they do have a pretty wide range of inks too. I just don't like that the type of ink isn't as clearly and consistently labeled. They have different icons for the different types, but I just never remember what is what. Because Hero Arts does do dye inks, they do pigment inks, they do reactive inks. So there's Hero Hues core inks, Hero Hues reactive inks, and Hero Hues pigment inks. And then there's these two, which I can't remember. I think one's pigment, like their bold line. I think this might be the bolds. I don't know. But they all are really nice colors, and they also have really good, they're really juicy. They're very pigmented. So I love the Hero Arts various lines of inks. They might be my second fave. I also love the fact that they do, I think you can get them. A lot of these I've gotten as part of kits, but you can buy them in these like colorways, which is convenient. So if you do like to have, like if you have those stamps that have like layered stamps, and you're meant to kind of stamp a light, a mid, and a dark, it's nice to have inks that have a system for that, so that it's really easy to kind of pick your light, mid, dark. So that's really nice. That's Hero Arts. I do have Altenew does that too in terms of the colorways. I think these were like sold as a 3-pack. So Altenew, these are dye inks. These are really good for stamping, doing your layered stamping. Pink Fresh Studio and Gina K, I have a few of both of those. I've tried those. I like them. Distress inks I think are okay. I don't use these a ton. I use the oxides more for ink blending. The distress oxides are they are a hybrid ink, so they blend really nicely. But for blending, I also really like the Versa Magic. I think that's the dewdrops I have. Let's see if I have it right here. They are so super juicy and really creamy, really, really nice to ink blend with. These here. So these are great. The only thing with Imagine that, they don't do quite as well is they don't actually sell in these convenient kind of light, mid, dark tones. So it might be a little bit harder to kind of get that from because they like the dewdrops, they sell them in these really nice multi-packs. And so you might have to like find, your light, mid, dark. I don't think they're necessarily designed that way, but these blend really beautifully. Versacolors blend really nicely too. These are a pigment ink. And then Mementos are really nice. Dye-based ink if you like a dye-based ink. So I found though with the Versacolor, because generally I find dye-based inks are better for stamping, like if you wanted to stamp a colored sentiment. And then pigment-based inks are good for techniques like ink blending or like swatching, your direct to paper techniques. But I found that Versacolor is really good to stamp with as well. And so good multi-purpose. That's why I have that as my top pick overall for stamping, uh, just inks in general. Then in terms of die cutting machines, my favorite is the Spellbinders Platinum machine. So I have the platinum from when it was sold as Fun Stamper's Journey. So my platinum is I've had that for well before I became a Spellbinders influencer. So it's been a long time favorite of mine, and it has like it's that got that classic Fun Stamper's Journey lime green color. So really love it, but that's why I had to get this separately, the universal plate system. I think these days, if you buy a new platinum machine, they all come with the universal plate system, which I really like because it's got a lot of different plates and shims and whatnot, but it tells you very clearly, what your sandwich is. And I think if you look on the website, it even tells you what sandwich to use for other brand products, like other brand embossing folders and whatnot. So I find that really nice that they've kind of thought about compatibility with other products, not just their products. So really love that. And I have the full size platinum. This base plate here, I think at the time when this first came out, they only had it in the Platinum 6 size. I think now they have the wider set. So I don't know that I necessarily feel like I need to get that, but I think it's available now even for the full size platinum. I have never tried any of the Sizzix die cutting machines, so I don't know how the platinum compares to like the Big Shot. And as well, the Big Shot I know has like an electric die cutting machine now too in their line, and I haven't tried that either. I do have the Gemini large platform machine. I don't use that as much because the pressure on that is astronomical, and it really does kind of eat up your plates quite a lot. So I don't use it a ton, but it is convenient to have if you're doing anything in volume where you're doing a lot of die cutting, because it's nice. I've used it for like when I've done advent calendars and had to die cut like a ton of the same thing over and over again. And it's very, very nice for that because you don't have to hand crank. You just feed it through and it's electric. So it just, feeds through automatically and stops automatically. So really, really nice for that. I do, in terms of mini machines, I do have the Gemini Mini, which I really like. And I am looking at, because of T, she keeps using it on my live streams. So I have been eyeing the Empress, the Anna Griffin, I think it's called the Empress, yeah. And it's an electric mini die cutting machine, but it's got a pretty wide mouth. It's like 4 inches. So that is actually going to be really nice because I can fit it on camera, and I think most dies will go through that. So I am looking forward to seeing if I can find a Black Friday deal on that and checking it out. And T likes it, and I I definitely value T's opinions on these things. So I'm definitely looking for a Black Friday deal on that. And otherwise, the only other die cutting machine I've ever used is the Cuttlebug, which is wonderful. I have the little 6-inch Cuttlebug. I don't really use it anymore these days. It's mostly my platinum machine that I use. So that's my favorite die cutting machine. And then let's get into maybe one of the last things I want to cover is, oh yeah, scissors. So I have a lot of different scissors that I have tried over the years, and I do have a favorite, and one that I'm still kind of on the fence about, still trying, and it's just that I haven't used it enough. So that's more, jury's still out on this one. That's more just because haven't used it for long enough, and it's very different, I would say, from other scissors, just in ergonomically how you use it. So these are small because these are more for fussy cutting, and I find that having a good pair of fussy cutting scissors does make a big difference in terms of the results that you get. And I don't like fussy cutting anyways, but I have come to dread it a lot less now that I have better scissors. And on this end, I have this Fiskars. I think it's called Micro Tip. I'm not sure. But these are pretty good. These were a big step up from what I was using before. So, but I think I was complaining quite a lot in some of my videos about how much I don't like fussy cutting, and somebody recommended the Tim Holtz serrated scissors, or maybe these are called the Micro Tips. I don't know. These do come in different sizes, so I think I got this as a multi-pack, and I do have a larger version of this. I just don't use it because mostly what I'm looking for when I'm fussy cutting is, good sharp scissors that give me a lot of control as I'm cutting and trying to like navigate around curves and corners and whatnot. And this offers a lot of control. Super, super sharp and really good. The only thing I don't like about it is that it does leave a serrated edge to your paper when you cut. I thought that maybe that serrated edge is what's giving me the really good control as I'm cutting around corners and whatnot. But Amanda of Pear Blossom Press clued me into these scissors from Spellbinders. And there's a bit of a backstory about this, but I can't remember what she said at the time. I think these were previously released. Maybe they were Fun Stampers Journey scissors or something, and for a long time they were out of production, but now they're back in production. And you can get them in like the small size like this, but I think they have the larger blades too. Same with the Tim Holtz ones. I just don't buy them in the larger blades because I don't really feel like I need super sharp scissors for long cuts. There's really very little that I do that my guillotine isn't better suited for if I'm cutting like a long stretch. But for fussy cutting, having these small scissors it makes a huge difference, I feel, because, and I think the reason why this is my favorite is because if you look at the width of the blade and the tip of the blade, like they differ some, and the more like the thinner the blade, the more easily you're going to be able to work your way around corners. And the sharper the blade, the more control you're going to have as you're cutting. And these are super sharp, and they are not serrated. So that kind of makes them, a slight notch above, these ones, because I don't like the serrated. But these have just as much control. The only thing is that you can kind of see like here you can get a couple fingers into this, so it's a little bit more like comfortable ergonomically, I feel. Whereas these, it's just the two holes, so it's a little bit less friendly in the hand, but this is still going to be my favorite in terms of like the actual results I can get cutting. This is kind of a different beast altogether. These are, I got this as part of a bundle. I think it was scrapbook.com's one of their live stream deals. And these are different entirely from all of these, and in that they are spring action kind of scissors. So their default state is to be open, and they don't have the two little finger loops here because they're full hand grips. So you cut like this. So it's supposed, if you do a lot of fussy cutting, for example, these can kind of cramp up your fingers quite a bit over time. But because with this one, it's your full hand that's gripping, and it's ergonomic. So you can see on this one hand, there's like those indentations for your fingers to wrap in. or around. And as well as the cutting action, you really just have to push down. You have to push down a little bit more because this is resistance. The coil here is going to resist you closing it, but it's going to spring open on its own. Whereas with this, you have to do the opening and the closing. So this doesn't have any natural state necessarily, whereas this is always going to spring back open to this state. So it's just a different way of holding a pair of scissors. It's a different type of cutting, and that's why I'm reserving judgment until I've had a chance to use this more. I've used it a couple times. I haven't been able to really get good results with it, but I think that's just because I just haven't used it for long enough. And so there's that. It just might be a little bit of like a different way of cutting that I just have to get used to. So I'm reserving judgment on this. Right now, these ones are my favorite. And I wanted to just before I wrap up, because I think that's probably the last major item that I wanted to talk about. But I do want to mention, when I was talking about adhesives, I forgot to mention the 3D Kalau glue that I use a lot. So I can't end this episode without mentioning, I don't have a full tube of it at hand because I totally forgot about this. But the reason why I like this glue is because it's a gel form of glue, and it's solvent based, so great for non-porous materials, for example. And it has so much body to it. It's a very thick gel. I use it a lot of times in lieu of foam, especially behind small, delicate foam pieces. It's easy to just squeeze out a little bead of this glue than it would be to cut like a really thin strip of foam adhesive if I want to try to get some dimension onto a die cut. Also, what it's really good for that I use it often for is if I'm adhering something down to a very uneven surface underneath. Like maybe I've got a lot of different mats and layers, but those mats and layers have different levels and different number of layers of cardstock underneath. This is really good because then I can it can just go where it needs to go to bring everything to the same level. And so it's really, really great to work with. Before I had this, my sort of gel glue of choice was Beacon 3-in-1, which is also really nice. And so this is a nice kind of thick gel like glue as well, and I like that, but I love this more because you can decant, there's like a tube of it, and you can decant it into these syringes to get like a finer tip, and that way you can really just get this where you want it. And I get questions about, how to fill this. I have a short video. If you go to the, I think there's a tab where you can just see the shorts. I have a short video on how to refill these. And another question I get asked a lot is if it dries out. I use it quickly enough to where it doesn't really dry out. If it dries a little bit, it's just at the very tip, and I always squeeze like a little bit out, so that's why you can kind of see there's a little bit of adhesive that's outside the tube. If it dries, it'll just dry that little bit there, and you can easily, I think that is actually a little bit dry, so I can show you. You can easily just take like a little paper towel, and if it dries out a little bit, it's just gonna dry out that little tip, and so you can just pull that little bit of dried adhesive, and then just squeeze more out, and and then that's nice and ready to go. So I've never had it be the case that everything in here has dried out, and that's why before I close the cap on these, I always squeeze a little bit out so that some is sticking out, and then I cap it. And that way you have like a little bit of glue. It helps to like create a seal because it's not going to dry on the plastic. and seal it shut, or anything like that. So you don't have to worry about that. But by squeezing a little bit out, it just prevents air from getting it down into the tube. So if anything dries out, it's just that little bit at the tip. So so yeah, I'm glad I remembered to to talk about that, because that is definitely one of my favorites, and really a staple in my craft room. So that, I think, covers all of sort of the basics of what I use in my sort of everyday crafting, and some of my favorites as well. So what I'll do though is I think for this episode, that's probably where I will end things. And what I'll do is I might have a follow-up video on other supplies that I have that are my top picks for various different things like hot foiling and whatnot. But those might be more specialized supplies that, I don't craft with like on a per project everyday kind of basis, whereas a lot of these things are things that I use almost every time I sit down to craft. So I hope that if you are new to paper crafting, that this gives you a little bit of an idea for the different things that you might want to pick up and use, and for sure, curate your own favorites based off of the type of crafter you are, the type of projects that you like to create, and get a lot of different opinions. I definitely haven't tried everything out there on the market, and as well, if you have favorites that you would love to share with me, I'd love to hear that. So leave those in the comments below. I'm always looking for even though I'm on a lot of different design teams and a lot of brands are represented here that I am on the team for, it's one of the reasons why I apply to certain teams, is because I like their products. It's not the other way around where I'm being asked onto teams and then I like their products. It's more that, I kind of seek out various teams because I love their products, and I like to kind of endorse them, and also I feel comfortable sharing, their products because I believe in them. And so even though, I'm on various design teams and they are my favorite products, they would be my favorite products anyways, even if I didn't design for them. So, but that doesn't mean I don't try different other brands. As you can see with inks, I have a lot of different brand inks because I like trying different brand inks. And so if you have a favorite, whether it's scissors or any of the things that I've shown, let me know. I don't like to go and just buy every new thing just because it's new. I buy things based off of your recommendations, based off of recommendations from my crafty friends, and because I don't have the budget to just buy things to test and share. I wish I did, but I just don't have that kind of expendable money. So I only buy the things that come highly recommended. So if there's something that you think that I might like to try, I am all ears. So please do let me know in the comments below. And as I mentioned, I'll have more Crafty 101 episodes. I have an episode on inks and deep diving into different types of inks. I will have one on paper coming out soon, and I'll do another sort of craft supply ones, but those might be more specialty tools and supplies that I have and use. So that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you found it useful. And until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day. Bye.